Hello, good people. It is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And today, I think I'm going to start calling Megyn Kelly the dry cleaner because all she does is launder the garbage opinions of her friends. Just the other day, I did a video where I talked about her and Matt Walsh and how she and Matt Walsh built up a straw man about, making this whole thing with not holding Tucker Carlson accountable, saying, I'm not going to call out my friends because, I'm too loyal, when that is 100% not the issue. It's not what anyone's asking them to do. No one's asking them to stab their friend in the back. It was so offensively bad that I was literally offended. I was offended that they thought that we are stupid enough to fall for that argument. But now Megyn Kelly is taking it to new levels once again. Now she's laundering Tucker Carlson, who's a much more egregious offender of this, because Matt Walsh is just, he's just being silent about something that he should really be calling out. And he's not himself doing the thing that's objectionable. Tucker Carlson is kind of like the chief offender of this crap. And Tucker Carlson is a snake. He's disingenuous. And I can't believe Megyn Kelly decided that once again, she would injure her own brand in her own. It's something about it that I just don't get. I think she thinks that, her being 10 toes down for her friends, that's going to add to her credibility. But I'm going to show you today the contrast between how Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly's conversation versus how Megyn Kelly treated Jake Tapper when she came on his show. When he came on her show. And I'm going to show you the difference between what a journalist looks like when they're holding someone accountable and when they aren't. Now, let's start with the Tucker Carlson interview, because she's asking Tucker about the Nick Fuentes interview. And I find this interesting because Tucker Carlson is going to go in this long diatribe about how his Christian, I get so sick of Tucker Carlson waving his Christian banner, waving his Christian flag after he praised Sharia law and talked about submitting to Allah and how that seemed to me to be the point of life. But he's just big Christian, right? And he gives this long spiel about his Christianity, how it doesn't allow for racism. He's all passionate and giving this Christian speech, none of which he said to Nick Fuentes, by the way. But we're going to let that slide for now. But watch how Megyn Kelly treats this obvious lie that Tucker Carlson says, and then we're going to talk about it because I think it deserves our attention. So without further ado.
So the whole idea of thinking of people as members of tribes, any tribe, including my tribe, is prima facie immoral. And yet, it is the operating idea behind so much of our politics. And I reject it. I reject it when it manifests as anti-Semitism. I reject it when it manifests as anti-white racism, which has been pretty common. I know we're not supposed to say it, but it's real. But I'm not mad about that just because my kids are white, which they are. I'm mad about that because the idea is immoral, it's anti-Christian, and that is the destruction of the West. And so when I see these people like, we're defending Western, when Mark Levin's like, we're defending Western civilization, or Randy Fine, who's like, yeah, we just have to kill every Palestinian because they're Palestinian so we can defend Western civilization. I'm like, no. You are the enemy of Western civilization because collective punishment is the enemy of Western civilization. Period.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to say, and I said it, and they called me a Nazi, and I'm like, actually, I hate the Nazis for that specific reason.
But wait.
Now let's pause there because this is a bald-faced lie. I'm going to bring you in close. That's what he wanted. Notice he said, that's what I wanted to say. He's saying, that's what I wanted to say to Nick Fuentes. And I said it. No, maybe that is what you wanted to say, but you didn't say it. If he would have said what he just said to Nick Fuentes, I hate the Nazis because, and then he said what he just said, this conversation would have been very, very different. But he didn't do that. So what is he even talking about? He didn't say any of that stuff to Nick Fuentes. He didn't really address. And then notice his how animated and how passionate he is about denouncing the Mark Levins and the Randy Fines. Now, I had to look up this Randy Fine guy. Apparently he's a congressman, and I'm gonna do some research on this because he said that Randy Fine was laughing at a dead Palestinian child. First of all, Tucker Carlson's a snake and a liar, so I don't believe that happened for 1 second. And I would think that Megyn Kelly should have some idea of whether or not that actually was true or not, because, she's a journalist. But she doesn't push back on this at all. She doesn't say, yeah, Tucker, you didn't really say that to Nick Fuentes, so what's that about? But let's continue here because there's more to this. Watch how Megyn Kelly responds to what he just said.
What I hear you saying, sort of, is that you wanted to reach him. You wanted him.
Of course I want to reach him and everyone watching.
But were you trying to help him in a way?
I want to tell the truth as I understand it with the ever-present knowledge that I'm kind of a buffoon and I'm often wrong. I supported the Iraq War. I remind myself of that every single day. I've made a ton of mistakes, a ton of errors and judgments. I've been carried away by enthusiasm and particularly by anger many times in my life. So with that knowledge, knowing that I am imperfect and I don't always possess the truth, okay? You always have to remember that because I'm not God. I still want to tell the truth as clearly and completely as I can in every venue, in every conversation, as fearlessly and without shame as I possibly can. And that's why Nazi Week doesn't bother me anymore, because I'm not a Nazi. I'm a Christian.
Of course. So what about...
I'm a Christian. That's why you're cool with Sharia law, and that's why you think that submission to Allah is like the whole point of life, actually. I pointed that out in my last video. Now, I want to just pause here, and I want you to see, there again, just an idea. This is how Megyn Kelly responds to what he said. And now I want to have a quick look at what Megyn Kelly did when she had a conversation with Jake Tapper.
Obviously, I feel tremendous humility about my coverage, that Laura Trump interview, for example, et cetera. She saw something that I did not see at the time, 100%. And I own that. I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters thought that he was not transparent at all. No,
he promised you that he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again, including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
Oh, so now Megyn Kelly knows how to ask an aggressive, truly journalistic question when someone gives you a bullcrap answer. Let's just pause here. Let's see if she does that with Tucker. Let's go back to Tucker and let's see her follow up here.
I don't want to spend the whole time on this, but I am curious. The main criticism, as I understand it, has been, well, yes, platforming. They say that I don't accept platforming as a valid objection.
What is that a verb? By the way, you take a noun and you make it into a verb and nobody says anything? As a former editor, I say no.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Honestly, but as far as I know, Nick Fuentes hasn't eaten anyone. Jeffrey Dahmer ate people, and he was platformed by Diane Sawyer.
We have a sitting member of Congress. I spoke to the Speaker of the House about this.
Again, straw man. No one is saying that just because you interviewed him, you did something wrong. No one is saying that. You clearly took his ideas and you laundered them and you made them seem like they were well within the boundaries of the Overton window for the Republican and the conservative movement. And that's the problem people had. Let me ask you a question. This Heritage Foundation, I don't even remember his name. It's not even important. Immediately, the leader of the Heritage Foundation came out and said, no matter what, we stand beside Tucker. And then just recently, he had to come back and apologize. Well, if Tucker didn't do anything wrong, then what was that guy apologizing for? What did he apologize for? If Tucker didn't do anything wrong, then neither did the Heritage Foundation do anything wrong for supporting him. But the leader of the Heritage Foundation, I think he's going to get fired. I don't even know that he's going to. You know what they realize? They realized that the thing that people said that Tucker was doing, he actually did. He laundered and played nice and gave a softball interview to somebody who is a lowlife scumbag like Nick Fuentes. He didn't press on any of the issues. So let's see if Megyn Kelly will hold him accountable there. Let's see.
This today, we have a sitting member of Congress from Florida called Randy Fine, who has literally texted or put on Twitter, "We should kill them all."
Now there again. Here he is again talking about Randy Fine. Randy Fine doesn't live in Israel. Randy Fine doesn't make decisions for Israel's military campaigns. Why are you talking about Randy Fine? If you got a problem with Randy Fine, bring him on your show and grill him. We're talking about Nick Fuentes. I don't understand why Megyn Kelly lets him keep changing the subject, but let's continue.
Every single one. Someone texted a picture of literally a dead baby and he laughs at it. And it's like, this guy's a lawmaker who's appropriating money to a military committing genocide, and that's cool? It's not cool.
No.
And let's just be honest. That is much worse than anything Nick Fuentes has said.
This is whataboutism. Let's assume that that's true. Even his framing of it. Does that mean that the way he interacted with Nick Fuentes was okay? No. It's like, this one guy, he stabbed a guy. All Nick Fuentes did was mug. Stabbing is worse than a mugging. So you still watched it happen?
Period.
So the main pushback has been when you had Jeffrey Dahmer or the Ku Klux Klan, et cetera, these journalists went after them, like exposed the terrible things. And Nick Fuentes has said a long list of very vile things.
Big time, including attacking my dad, which was the most vile of all, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I personally have watched videos of him questioning the Holocaust, likening it to baking cookies in the oven, and there's no way you could have gotten to 6 million, seems to be his theory. He seems to think that we've way overstated the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust. He's ripped on poor Usha Vance in the most offensive terms, which I mean, so what do you say to those people? Say, why didn't you raise any of that?
What do you say to those people? Now, notice she's framing it like devil's advocate. Notice she's framing it like devil's advocate. These are not questions she's asking because she doesn't have a problem with what he did. What do you say to those people, devil's advocate? Now let's go to the Jake Tapper interview, and let's see if she is, quote, asking questions in a devil's advocate way.
That's true, but I did ask him about his age and the fact that the American people had concluded that even though he said whenever anybody brought up the subject of his age, watch me. And I said, yes, they're watching you and they are concerned that you were too old for this job.
You know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
Wait a second. Does Megyn Kelly actually know how to do the journalisms? Looks like she knows how to do it. Apparently, though, when she's talking to Tucker, she gets a curious case of amnesia. This is what it looks like to press someone. Everyone knows that Jake Tapper is full of crap when he tries to say, I didn't know Joe Biden's health and mental acuity was compromised. You know, Laura Trump, she saw something that I didn't see, and that's why I tried to, point out, I feel, she used this weird phrase, I feel embarrassment. Like, what does that mean? Is that an admission that you were wrong? It's a weird way to say it. She doesn't let him off the hook. She doesn't. He tries to give himself an out by saying, well, I did say, I did do this, I did do that. And she knows that he's full of crap. And so she doesn't let him get away with it. But when Tucker says, oh, well, this is what I wanted to say to Nick Fuentes. I just wanted him to know that because I'm a Christian, racism and anti-Semitism is not allowed. None of which he actually said directly to Nick Fuentes. And then she accepts that and then comes back with some devil's advocate question. Well, what do you say about people who say you didn't press him on the... Megyn Kelly, you're done. You're done, Megyn Kelly. Where's my button? You're done. That's clown work. You have, in just a matter of a couple of days, you have torpedoed your credibility. And you know what? Here's the interesting thing. I can barely even blame Megyn Kelly. I can barely blame her in the sense that if that's her friend, she should have just recused herself. She should have said, you know what, Tucker, in all fairness, we're friends. I don't want to get in the way of that. I don't want to bring you on and give you some softball, interview and try to launder, and because it's gonna make me look bad. It's gonna make you look bad. It's gonna make people think that we're trying to paper over the errors that you made. This thing with the Heritage Foundation, the guy already came out after standing beside you. Now he had to backtrack and acknowledge that his unyielding, support of you, despite the fact that you did something that was dishonorable, that was a mistake. And I don't want to be a part of that. Why don't I have somebody else ask you the questions? Or why don't we have somebody else up there, maybe someone who doesn't have the same relationship, and then I'll try to, maybe we'll play good cop, bad cop or whatever. But she didn't do that. And so she decided to launder Tucker's garbage ideas. Just a little bit more I want to watch because this gets pretty bad. And let's listen to this.
Do your own interview the way that you want to do it. You're not my editor. Buzz off. I mean, I don't know. You want to go yell at Nick Fuentes? I'll give you his cell. Call him and go sit and yell at him and feel virtuous or whatever. That's up to you. I got the same thing with Putin. Why aren't you yelling at him? Okay, why? So I can show that I'm a good person? I care about what my wife thinks, my children.
Again, this is a straw man. I can't believe these people. Look at how little respect these people have for you. They have nothing but contempt for you. This is the same thing we were saying. This is the same thing the right-wing media was saying about the compromised and biased left-wing CNN, MSNBC. This is the same thing they were saying about them. They despise you. They think you're stupid. COVID, the election, January 6th, all of this stuff. They think you're dumb. And now, here these people are perpetrating the same thing and running cover for their friends.
Think and God thinks, and that's it. I don't need to prove that I'm a good person to you. You may think I'm a terrible person. Okay, I'm just doing my thing, which is I want to understand what people think, and I'm committed to that. And if you don't like it, don't watch.
If you want to understand what people think and you ask them the questions that are appropriate to explore their actual ideas, which you did not do with Nick Fuentes. You didn't ask him why he's always using the N-word. You didn't ask him why he says that women should be treated like children or that they should be graped or that they secretly want to be graped and treated like crap. You didn't ask him that.
But I will say, just since you brought it up, one thing that did bother me was the Usha Vance thing. And I generally make it a practice not to be like, you said this and da-da-da-da-da, and the internet tells me, or, the ADL says you said this. It's like, why don't you just tell me what you do think? Like, why don't you speak for yourself? Because we're adults. That is my approach with everybody, whether I like him or don't like him. But the Usha Vance thing did upset me because I know Usha Vance and I love Usha Vance, and I was really offended by that, just personally because I know her, right? And in a normal way. And I did think about that. Like, that pissed me off. And I'm just being as honest as I can be. I didn't want to repeat it.
Yeah, no, you're always in that position.
What a lame excuse. Megyn Kelly should be... I know Tucker Carlson's going to lie, but Megyn Kelly should be ashamed of herself. So there you have it. You have Megyn Kelly out here treating you like a child, pretending to press Tucker Carlson when she wouldn't do that. She showed you what real journalism and what a real interviewer would do when they're getting to the bottom of something, when they're not letting people off the hook. And then we saw the exact contrast with her and Tucker. And I just have to say, we don't need these people. I'm going to do a video, and hopefully I'll put it up tomorrow, about why we don't need these people. Why we don't need, people think we need the Tucker Carlsons and the Megyn Kellys of the world because they're such important voices. We don't need these people. It's just like Elijah talking to God saying, all of the prophets of, all of your prophets have been, destroyed, and I'm the only one that's still serving you. And God says, what are you talking about? I got 7,000 that haven't bowed their knee to Baal. You're not the only one. I'm using you now, but I don't need you. We don't have to rely on the Tuckers and the Megyn Kellys of the world. Small independent creators like myself, people who are not beholden to some of these old gentlemen's agreements not to have any friendly fire with these people who are compromised. But I'd like to know what you think. Of course, let me know in the comments. If you are coming by for the first time, I appreciate you doing that. Make sure you stick around for more videos. Like, share, and subscribe. And YouTube does have a new feature on their videos. It's called Hype, and it's for small creators like myself. So if you see the hype button, make sure you turn up and hype it. Hit that hype button. It's kind of like a super like or something. I don't know how the algorithm works, but all I know is when you hype it, this video gets pushed to more people. So I'd appreciate you doing that. Until next time, my friends, God bless you.